Hi, trade professionals. We are back with another episode of the Weekly News RoundUp.
Wait, who are we?
I forgot it for just a second, and I can't laugh. Laughing hurts me right now. But anyways,
do this again.
I am here
Start
with.
again.
I know, and I laugh a lot, but I'm here with Lalo and Andy, obviously, because they have all the answers for me, like always. And we're going to talk about two things that we have mentioned in the past that we want to talk about because there's a few updates, a few concerns, and then we have a whole new topic. So let's get started with the strikes. So U.S. Apparel Trade Group calls to recall Canadian Parliament as port strike enters 10th day. No fun. I think 10 days of striking seems like a lot. And the article mentioned that currently things are coming in, for the holidays, and because obviously that all has to come in advance. We've talked about this before. And basically, I want to understand what is happening now, why they can't settle this, when will it be settled, and how will consumers be affected? Do you think we will see stuff more expensive in December, or like now in the upcoming days when we're, purchasing things for Christmas or whatnot? Will that be more expensive now? Because it says that most likely the consumers are gonna be affected most afterwards. So let's go ahead and talk about this.
Well, I will tell you from my perspective is this is hurting the Canadian economy. So putting it in perspective, all of the West Coast ports that we had talked about before, the union was doing a work slowdown and work stoppage in all of the ports, all the U.S. Western ports, including the Canadian Western ports. And the U.S. Portion of the union apparently has gotten an agreement that they still have to vote on to ratify as far as the union members go. For whatever reason, the Canadian union representing the Western port workers have a problem, and they have actually gone out on strike. Now, with that, let me just put it in perspective. Part of the union dues that comes into play with this is that there is a fund that in the event there is a strike, remember, if you're on strike, you're not working, therefore you do not get paid as a worker. And the union will have a fund that will supply temporary income to their members that are on strike. I don't know for sure if they are utilizing that, but you would have to assume after 10 days, there are some funds being flown through that account to their members, you would think, or something. That's one thing. The second thing, though, this is definitely hurting the Canadian economy, and will back things up. There is freight that's being diverted to U.S. ports at this point, and will be moving inland through the U.S. back up to Canada, bypassing the Canadian Western ports. So all said and done, the net result here is, as this dispute goes on, it is backing up freight going into Canada, and it's only going to hurt and is hurting the Canadian economy. And it will have a longer lasting effect than even if they were resolving it today. It'll still take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks for things to get resolved in the backup.
Just right as we started recording this, I mean, it's going to seem a little bit ironic or crazy, but literally as we started recording this, a 4-year agreement has been reached by both parties. And so the strike is tentatively going to end, but of course both parties need to still sign off on it. But apparently both sides already agreed on this agreement, on this deal, and it was reached effectively ending. So yeah, it's effectively ending the 13-day strike. So
I just saw that. I'm sorry, Canadian West Coast ports strike is over, but it will take weeks for supply chain to recover, just like we
Right.
just mentioned. So
Right.
there you go.
Right. So they're just estimating a 6.5 billion hit of disrupted cargo, 6.5 billion Canadian dollars hit that they took over these last 13 days. And of course, from my logic that I can find from that, it's hurting the Canadian economy. I mean, they're in as much of a slowdown like we are here in the U.S. Whatever we go through, it almost always happens on our neighboring countries as well. That they suffer inflation. We suffer inflation. They do too, etc. So that's not, obviously that didn't help. Those 13-day strike didn't help at all. So, but anyway, that is literally as we started recording, as we pressed the record button, that's what came in. Yeah.
Attention all trade geeks. The G-Tech conference is coming to Oklahoma City and you won't want to miss it. Mark your calendars for July 30th through August 1st and join us for a jam-packed event with expert-less sessions and networking opportunities. And guess what? The Simply Trade podcast will be recording live at the event. Don't miss this unique chance to be featured on the show and share your insights with fellow trade professionals. We'll see you in Oklahoma City, where trade compliance takes center stage. Go to www.ncbfaa.org and become part of the action. But for now, also, I have a quick question. On that money or that amount that you said, Lalo, that they have already kind of acquired over these 13 days, who's that going to lean on? Is that going to still affect the consumers later on with all the material, or?
No, I mean, all they were saying in the article that's how much estimated commerce, what was affected. Not that they lost that much. I'm sorry, I must have not completed my thought or something. But
do you think that it'll still affect consumers these 13 days, or will that just not happen?
Well, it definitely will. I mean, only because they're not going through a recession. They're just going through inflation like we are here in the US, and prices are going up and everything. And so this definitely is going to not help. It'll help eventually now that it's over, but right now it's just not helping that they're in a strike right now, or they were in a strike, I'm sorry, which added costs. And then you talked about that article that you previously had on the apparel industry that made costs go up because all the supply chain had to divert into the United States and then back up through the US to Canada, instead of it taking a shortcut and going through Canada. And so that all these costs making things more expensive, more than what they are now. So
great. Not great for any of us, but we can only do better in the future, right?
Well, it should be in recovery mode now, because of this deal. So it should be recovering a little bit and helping. So that is good news.
Seems like we've been recovering after COVID, and then things start happening and we have to recover again, and somehow we're just always in recovery or in a pit. But it doesn't get better with the next article. Trust me, because we are actually only going down today. We're not going up. Maybe we need some happy news. Next time I'm going to make sure I'm going to put something very uplifting, because these 3 articles are very not great. But we have to talk about it. So this next one is again about striking. And this time it's a company that we really well know because they deliver things to our doorstep. So the article says UPS chances of averting a strike are shrinking. How should shippers prepare for the worst? So first of all, I want to talk about the Teamsters and the UPS. Again, they're having a labor issues agreement with their agreement, or they have to have a new agreement. That's what I'm understanding. And they cannot decide on, I guess they cannot come to an agreement. So I want to know what these shippers can do to prepare themselves if they do have a strike, because obviously these packages still have to be delivered. And how long could this possibly go on? I know we don't know, but what do you guys think? And then, how are consumers going to be affected? So the entire situation. If we can talk about this, and you guys can enlighten me and everyone else.
Well, I can tell you, I have lived through this.
Andy knows. Yeah, Andy knows this very well because he was at FedEx when this happened back in 1999, I think, or 98.
Was that the last time this happened?
It happened with UPS, but FedEx, I guess, was threatening too.
There's a couple things. One is that UPS actually had the Teamsters did pull a vote to strike, and so the UPS employees, the front line, wound up going out on strike. That said, it caused such a overwhelming surge within FedEx, UPS, DHL at the time / Airborne. It was like a windfall. But what happened was that FedEx had to, as well as all the other companies out there, had to literally prioritize their current customers and protect the space available. And then any new customers that came along and whatnot, people were trying to negotiate new contracts real quick. Well, that's fine, but there's only so many airplanes you can add at a time, or trucks or whatever. So it filled up the FedEx network and others as well. What you need to be doing is what happened since that time, but I think as time has gone on, people have gotten complacent. And that is, you would negotiate, and what they did initially after the strike was develop a multi-carrier type supply chain. So you had FedEx, you had UPS, you had whatever, so that in the event you have a well-established customer relationship with another provider. Need to, definitely do everything you can right now to decide what other providers and get set up as a client now. Whether UPS does go out on strike or not, you better get things set, because it is a major deal in trying to do that. That's one thing. Second thing is that in this, you need to look at extending your delivery times, or put it, we estimated X number of days contingent upon the carrier, because basically any guarantees of a set delivery time all bets are off, because the current systems would be at full capacity. Because you stop and think, UPS has a huge volume, and they go on strike. That huge volume now has nowhere, that UPS will have all management, office administrative personnel and all that will go in and be working in the hubs and sort systems, but it's going to be very limited. So it's like, yeah, they'll have some freight move, but it's only going to be less than 5% compared to the, thousands and thousands and thousands of packages they deal with every day.
Right. And if this happens, so here's the big problem is that if it happens, companies that have per se burned their bridges with FedEx, let's say, are in big trouble. Like the biggest one that we can think of is Amazon. They dissolved their agreement with FedEx back in, I'm sure it was right before the pandemic. I think it was like in December of 2019 or late 2019, where they dissolved their contract with FedEx because they were not.
Yeah, actually, Fred Smith himself pulled the plug on, said we're not renewing it,
right?
Because Amazon kept squeezing it down, and basically said forget it, and walked away from it. And so did I think UPS followed suit on that too.
No, UPS is their primary shipper right now for Amazon.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What if if this strike happens? It's USPS or nothing, I guess. And the problem is that USPS, Amazon delivers through USPS as well, but through an agreement with UPS, which is the UPS. I think, I guess they would call it that in the industry. That's what they would call the last mile. But for consumers, there's not literally a last mile. It's just I wish I knew the term, but anyway, it's just for package delivery. UPS will carry it all the way to the post office, and then USPS will normally deliver. If it's not that big of a product, USPS does the final delivery. So, but anyway, yeah. So if this strike does happen, I think Amazon's going to have to crank up some way.
Well, y'all have other providers, especially for the bigger freight, such as Seva Logistics and the other providers like that that have trucking. There's some of the freight forwarders like that have gotten in and have some air capacity for air cargo. So you got other means. Start looking at them because you get set up because they're going to be inundated with people doing the exact same thing. So.
Yeah, so that also kind of shows that people have to keep up with who they're working with, right? I feel like they preach that a lot in compliance. You have to know everything, your brokers and whatnot. You have to be very close with them so you can monitor what they're doing, or if they have a second broker or whatnot. But like even working with such corporations like UPS and stuff, if they have a certain drama and you're not aware of it or you're not working close with them, then you're just going to leave it and it's going to ruin your business at the end of the day, because your consumers are not going to be happy when their package doesn't arrive on their doorstep. Like a lot of us, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't have any better news now. I'm just going down the line. So the next one is we're talking about manufacturing. It's not about striking, but the article says manufacturing slowed in June to some of its lowest levels this year. And I want to talk about a comment that is made in the article by Chris Williamson, Chief of Business Economist, whatever. So he says, the health of the U.S. manufacturing sector took a sharp turn for the worse in June, adding to concerns over the economy potentially slipping into recession in the second half of the year. That sounds crazy to me because I thought we were doing well. Maybe I wasn't looking at the news, but it seems like manufacturing is not doing well at all. So what do you guys think about this? Is there hope? And do consumers have anything to do with it? Who has anything to do with it? Why is this happening?
Well, the economy is the manufacturing is slowing down because demand is slowing down.
Yes.
Why would demand slow down? Fuel prices fuel prices are significantly higher.
Need to get gas.
Yeah, and so it takes more money. Eats into your paycheck, right? And with that, inflation on groceries, just groceries, have gone up. And everything you touch and feel and buy and whatever is going up. So that eats into your paycheck. Therefore, discretionary spending has dropped because I don't have the money to go buy. So I want that extra pair of jeans, or I want another shirt. Gee, I don't have any more money right now. Guess I'll have to hold off. Hence the demand.
That's actually crazy. I never thought about it like that. Like I never thought that, I know there's some people that do, like, once a recession or once everything happened, like they had to cut some of their budget and weren't able to spend money like that. But I didn't think it can have such an effect. Like I truly did not.
Well, let me take it a step further though. That's exactly why I was asking the question. I wasn't trying to at all be flippant. I'm like, think through this. So people are trying to push the green agenda. Let's go back to that. And the green agenda, it's like, okay, well, you know what? To do the solar and the wind powers and all that, and to convert over to what everybody's looking at as renewable energy, it sounds good on paper. In reality, those things do not produce energy at a cost-effective rate. So the government has to subsidize that. But the point being is what happens is your utility bill goes up. Well, when and in many cases, especially in Europe, utility bills have almost doubled, if not more than doubled. Well, that eats into your paycheck. There you go. And now it's the negative domino effect, as I'm saying. That's all I'm getting at is when people are pushing different policies, that's where I keep coming back and going, stop and think what you're doing. What's the cause and effect? Is the cost of what you're to push forward a policy worth it? Are the benefits of that policy worth the cost that you're going to have to pay? And most people don't think about it until way late, and then afterwards, actually, they've lost the cause and effect to say we push this green agenda or we push this policy or whatever it is, and all of a sudden, fuel prices go way up or utilities go way up, and that's where it is, and that's what's happening right now. So then now, as time has been out there, costs have gone up. The inflationary thing, we've been talking about it here in the U.S., is a significant increase in inflation. And it's now getting to the point where now it is really hitting at what's going to happen. Jobs are going to be lost because, hey, if people are not buying my product, I can't manufacture more than what I can sell.
It's also funny though, like, also I didn't think about that because when you do go to a mall or like, let's say a shopping center, it's full. It's not empty. It's not like the streets are empty and people are not buying things. That's why, to me, it's not obvious that manufacturing is slowing because people cannot afford. Because people can afford. They go to the mall. They go there. So I wonder, what kind of manufacturing are we talking about? I mean, it's a general one, obviously, but
no. But I mean, you're asking and you're making a fantastic observation. I appreciate it.
So
People are at the mall. Yeah, well, but Annik, people are at the mall. They're still socializing with each other. Here's the key. Look to see, are they carrying more bags now or less? Chances are they're at the mall. They're looking, they're shopping. But instead of buying a shirt, a pair of pants, and a pair of shoes, they may only be buying the shirt.
Yeah. Well, we're a trade channel, but this is interesting. I wish we could have someone from an economist on here, but that's a whole different situation, and it can get really tricky to talk about that, and I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like an economist. Economist.
Economist.
I think it's so interesting to me.
I'll tell you what. You know what? That'll be one of those things that we need to look at. I would love to have. Talk about statistical.
Not a biased one.
Yeah, no, it's just
statistics.
But it's one from a statistical perspective on the cause and effect with international trade and all that. So we'll see if we can't put a show together. Ken Roberts. I always, our listeners probably heard me reference him many times. I think he's a phenomenal guy. I love his information, and he's so smart. I would love to look at what his trends are and then have an actual economist that is looking at the different ratios of with the margins out there on everything from the interest rates to the trends, the employment and unemployment rates and all of that. So it would be worthwhile. So maybe we can try and put together a show on that.
Yeah, I would love that. And I'm sure a lot of listeners would too. So...
fun fact. You have a fun fact?
Yeah, there's no light situation, but I have a fun fact. Well, I guess I have two. One is maybe a happy one because in the world we do international trade, but I think some people don't know because I have heard someone say, why do we even have to trade? Why do we need to trade with this country? Or why do we rely on that country? Fun fact, all countries have to rely on each other because without international trade, we couldn't even survive, really. Or no country, maybe for a little bit, but we wouldn't be able to sustain it. So that is a fun fact. I guess you guys would agree, right?
Without a doubt, of course.
Okay. And the next fact is, well, it's a question. How long does sea freight take from China to the U.S.? Do you guys have any guesses?
10 days. I don't know. Andy knows for sure.
Oh, Actually, it would be anywhere from 10 to 14 days, depending on the winds and the tides.
Well, it actually says that the typical transit times are from 15 to 25, but can take longer if the ship is sailing to the East Coast.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
that's long.
Well, it is long, but it's also a scenario there that, depending, again, if you look at it and you take a straight shot, you can get here in, let's say straight from the East Coast of China to the West Coast of the U.S. You can do it in a matter of a few days, but that's only if you've got a direct shot. Usually they have multiple stops. See, they're picking up and dropping off containers and whatnot. So that's why you have that transit time like that.
So crazy to me, because those happen like all the time. If you work on that type of ship, do you work? So you work 15 to 25 days and then do you get off, or what? Like you just work 50 days straight, or?
Well, yeah, you're working every day. You're on the ship. It's good.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. You're like, yeah, let me take a break. I'm going to have a vacation over here. No, it doesn't work that way.
Well, yeah, no, I understand that. But like after, after that, they have to have a chef on there probably too and stuff, no?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Laundry, chef, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Doctor or medical.
Yeah. A doctor?
Well, you'll have probably some kind of medical, if depending on how big your crew is, you're going to have somebody on there that's, trained in first aid and or medical treatment of some kind.
Actually, fun fact, my family has worked kind of in logistics, or my uncle on the uncle side, he had a company, whatever. But my cousin, he's an engineer for those big boats, and he's often in China and America and everywhere. Like he goes all around the world. It's so crazy to me.
It's great.
Wild. Yeah, no, I don't know how he does it. I could never. It's crazy. It'd be cool to have someone on here like explain their story on how life is on the boats.
Hey, Lalo, that's another one for our Simply Trade folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they want to hear about that. Anyways, this was a great episode. I liked it. We had some very down articles, and I'll make sure to uplift this new section next week. But, maybe we can ask the people who work in the economy or something to lighten it up a bit. Anyways, thank you so much for all your help. And thank you for listening. And hope you tune back in next week. We will be back. And please let us know if you want to talk about anything, if you have any concerns, questions, blah, blah, blah. Let us know on LinkedIn. Call us, do anything. But yeah, so we will go take a nap now. And we'll let you go. So goodbye. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.